Thank you. So this is part of our continued programs. For those of you who have followed us for many years know that when we started our company 13 years ago, we took 1% of our equity, 1% of our profit, and 1% of our time and put it into a 501c3 charity. And we have been able to give away tens of millions of dollars for disaster recovery all over the world. As disasters have happened like this, we provide our services for free. And we have run almost 10,000 organizations like this one for no charge. So as you are out working in the community and you find organizations who need our services, please let us know so that we can provide our data centers and our databases, our applications, and our social networks for no charge for all Japan NGOs, nonprofits, and for all relief efforts. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to serve and to give back to Japan, who has given so much to Salesforce and to me personally. Thank you. What I love about my job is that our industry is constantly changing. And I think for those of you who have followed Salesforce.com for so many years know that we see this constant change. I know Tori-san is shaking his head. Yes, he sees the change because he's lived the change. Many of you have lived the change. We have seen it go from mainframes to mini computers. We've seen it go from mini computers to PCs. Then we saw the birth of the internet in the mid-90s. And then we saw the birth of mobility, first really here in Japan, the dominant mobile society. And then we've moved from this mobile society to the emergence of the social networks. And of course, Japan again dominated the social networks and has an inordinately high percentage of users of social networks in the world, always adopting new technology in the most expeditious way. But we're moving now once again into a new world. Over the last several months, I have met now with almost 200 customers all over the world. In individual meetings, small lunches and dinners, I've also done many very large presentations in the thousands. But what I can tell you is that we are moving into a new world, a post-PC world. And I know that many people here have, for example, their smartphones with them, they have their tablets with them, they're on social networks. We'll talk about that. But I believe a door is opening for us to create a new world for our industry. And this post-PC revolution, this change, has been driven by social networking. And I've talked about this in my last 2 visits to Japan. But how many of you now are on a social network like Mixi or Twitter or Facebook? Could you raise your hand if you're on a social network already? Yeah, many hands going up. And more in every presentation that I do in Japan, there's almost 1 billion people in the world today on social networks. There's more people on social networks than there are on email. That's amazing. And also, it's not just social networks, but we're seeing that fundamentally what people are doing on the internet itself is changing. So many people are on Facebook and Twitter, many people are on YouTube or video sites, and they're collaborating and sharing with their friends in new ways. And the existing websites and kind of the old internet is kind of dying off. And that's the history of our industry, as the old technologies die off and the new ones birth. And it's not just what we're doing on the internet has changed, but it's how we're doing it on the internet has changed, that many of us have smartphones with us or tablets. How many of you own an iPad? Can you raise your hands if you own an iPad? It's kind of amazing. A year ago when I was here, iPad was not even yet shipping in Japan. Now look at how many people own iPads. How many people have a smartphone like an iPhone or some type of a BlackBerry or something like that with them today? Many people as well. And so this has been a huge phenomenon. But the point I want to make to you, it's not just a consumer phenomenon, it is an enterprise phenomenon, because many owners of these devices, of these smartphones, of these tablets, of these next generation devices are bringing them into their companies and they're saying, here, this is how I want to be productive. Certainly students who are graduating university today are coming into our corporations and they're saying, where is my iPad? Where is my Android tablet? Where is my phone? Because they're being given maybe a PC running an old version of Windows or IE6 with a blue screen or a green screen or a yellow screen. And they're saying, this is not how I'm productive. This is not how I communicate in the world. This is not how I operate my life. And yet, we're forcing them to do this in our companies. And in many cases, they say, this is not the kind of company I want to work for. I want to work for a company that has modern technology, that has up-to-date technology, and I'm more productive at home or on the train. I'm more productive in my social life than I am in my business life. So many of you, I'm sure, have this experience where you're working with either yourself or you're working with new employees who say, how do I move into this new world? So I call this a shift that's going on. And the shift that's going on, I've given it a name. It's that companies are trying to become a new type of enterprise, very highly networked enterprises, or what we call social enterprises. And the reason why this is so important, it's because the customers themselves are moving into the cloud. The customers are moving onto the social networks. The customers are in the community sites, and where they're making decisions and where they're looking for marketing information and where they're looking to buy products are in the cloud. And on these social networks or in mobile applications or in new open platforms, companies are looking to reach these customers in new ways. Customers are moving to the cloud, and the company's trying to get into the cloud. The problem is that for most companies, they're still very much operating in silos. Customer service is a silo, sales is a silo, partners are a silo, but the real issue is that there is a crack in the ground, that they're fully disintermediated, they're separated between the cloud is over here and the company is over here. So there's a separation between the cloud and where the customer is and the company. And what we need to do is we need to bring these together. We need to bring the cloud and the company together and to create a new type of enterprise. And there's 3 key steps to making this happen. And the first step is what I call listening and working within the social networks. You heard about this a little bit earlier. You know, what's happening in the social networks, the conversations that are happening in the social networks, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Mixi, what's happening on the social networks is there's a tremendous conversation underway. And what we need to do is we need to listen to these conversations. We cannot ignore these conversations. I think that if we're enterprises and we're ignoring these conversations, we will do this at our peril. That we need to step up and we need to listen to what is the customer saying. Of course, traditionally we called this a focus group. Or we brought the customers into our offices and talked to them. But this is happening in real time, not even near time, certainly not in batch processing. This is happening in real time, and we have to listen to these customers. This is step 1. The second thing that we have to do is we have to engage the customer. We have to talk to them online. If we see that they're having a problem on the social network, we need to reach out onto the social network. That's a foreign concept. We're used to the customer maybe calling us or emailing us. That we have to proactively reach out into a foreign environment that we're not familiar with. This is a huge shift for us as companies. How are we going to do this? To engage the customer in the new medium itself. We have to engage the customer on the mobile device. We have to build technology where we're going to go where the customer is. And then we need to be able to sell and market to the customer in that new environment. Because the customer themselves, they want to conduct commerce with us. They want to get answers to their questions. They want to build community where they are. They don't want to come to us. We have to go to where they are. And where the customer is has changed. And we have to service this customer. We have to service the customer in this new world. This is only step 1. This is the beginning. What are your customers doing? How do we listen, engage, sell, and market and service in these new social networks and in the mobile devices? We have to include the social networks. This is the first thing in our new enterprise. The second thing that we have to do in our new enterprise is the way that we're selling the way that we're servicing, the way that we're marketing, the way that we are collaborating is changing. The way that we're partnering and the way that we're talking with our partners, this also has to dramatically change. Because to have a truly productive company, to have a high level of automation, we have to enable these employees or our agents with these new tools to be able to share in real time. And the traditional technology we've used is basically out of date. And we need to move forward rapidly in this internal operation of our business. This is the second piece. How do we automate the fundamental operation of our company? And we're going to talk about that today, but you know, when we look at these employee social networks that are emerging, these are like the traditional Japanese form of the, I think it's called the obeya, the large room where we collaborate for ideas and have kind of a vision or insight. But this can happen in an electronic form. It's certainly happening if you look at what's happening in social networks today, or how social networks are dramatically impacting what's happening on the Middle East. And the Arab Spring that is happening is amazingly enabled by a lot of what's happening on social networks. How do we look at that kind of impact for our own companies? And number 3 is, what about our own products? What about the mobile technologies? What about the kind of, what I would say, our traditional customer touch points that are offline, maybe vending machines or point of purchase displays or stores? How do we reach out and bring these vehicles into this new type of social enterprise?